soon as I met Mrs. Lewis, she basically adopted me.
You can imagine it's like.
I was on the Clio Youth Task Force, which was before Gen Clio. And then I was inducted into the Clio Leadership Circle, and now I'm a board of directors member for the Clio Institute. So.
Look at that. How can I get you? Robbie, what is your like?
Well, the thing is, I was kind of leaning towards the side where climate change was just a cycle that the Earth was going through.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of just needed to convince me, so you kind of convinced me.
Oh, I'm so glad. Awesome.
Because I was like in the middle kind of, and I just needed someone to convince me, and you did that today. Your presentation.
That's
so
awesome.
I just joined you right now. So.
Awesome. That's so cool.
Success story.
That's so cool. That's awesome. And if you need more convincing, I can share all sorts of slides with you about the science. I have all sorts of information about the cycles, and like while there are cycles, it's like a general trend basically overriding those cycles, so I can like share all that stuff with you if you want to learn more. That's awesome. That's
Sebastian.
so cool. That's so cool.
Last question.
Oh, what do you think is like the biggest barrier in terms of stopping or just raising awareness for climate change, like, or getting something done?
Politics.
Politics.
And politicians who are so adamantly against solving it for the reasons that I talked about, such as utility companies and power companies paying them for their campaigns. That is a huge issue, and we need to set that aside and focus on the real issue at hand, which is the fact that our environment is dying. And so the way to do that is by, right now, because our state won't do that, is by working locally. I found that locally, politicians more often than not are interested in actually solving the issue. South Miami, Miami Beach, Pinecrest, Coral Gables, there's commissioners and mayors all over who are very interested in this topic. And then hopefully the lawsuit at the state level will help.
Victor went to Miami Shores.
I did.
Oh, you did?
Trying to push plastic back.
Awesome, that is so cool.
Yeah.
Like, give me an update on that.
When Whitney came up to you and she was like asking you about what you wanted to do and how long you wanted to do this for, like how long do you think it would take if the politics were subsided to fix climate change? Not entirely, but at least take a big leap from that.
It's a great question. Well, so okay, there is a book that recently came out called Drawdown, and it's a comprehensive plan. It proposes, I think it's 100 ways to solve climate change by 2030. So I think it definitely is possible within our lifetime, 100%. It's just getting people to the point of doing so.
Like Ms. Lewis has all these meetings. Usually Ms. Lewis says that by this time it will like be very hard to stop the ship from, as we use like the analogy, like going to the iceberg.
Yeah.
So how long, like what time, that's topic, going to the iceberg, how long do you think for you, like, on your journey, would it take for you to be like, okay, I can't do this anymore, because no one, like, politics are not allowing me to, like, would you ever just be like,
would you ever give up?
Exactly.
I don't think so. No.
It can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's like Mrs. Lewis, like knowing as much as I know about what could happen. And in my lifetime, like I said, in 19 years on this planet, I have seen it change. I've seen it get worse. I've seen the flooding get worse in my lifetime. And seeing that and knowing that it could cause basically our entire state to disappear at some point is incredible to me. And I don't want that to happen. And I will fight it every single day so that it doesn't happen. Because I love Miami. I want to live here forever. Like, that's ideal, you know? So, yeah.
So I have two questions. One of like is, do you think if you, like, I think a big thing is that people like are super into like kids and stuff. So when you say that Miami's gonna be underwater, like you don't want your children to have to deal with this like issue, because if it's gonna happen in our lifetime, our children's lifetime, it's gonna be even worse.
Right.
It's gonna already be done, like,
Exactly.
and it's just gonna be getting worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
So do you use that as like a motivation
Yeah.
factor? To
Yeah, for sure. And I think that strikes a chord with a lot of people,
Yeah.
like especially moms.
Exactly.
They hear that and they're like, oh my god, my kids.
Exactly.
You know?
So then they feel like they need to do something.
Right, and kids hear that, and even though they're young and like sometimes the youngest group that I've ever spoken to was kindergarten. And that was very difficult.
Yeah,
They're very
sounds
small.
good.
But they got it. They understood. I threw science at them and they got it. It's incredible how smart
You
kids
hearing that,
are.
Sebastian?
It's crazy. So kids understand it. They are willing to learn about it. And they're
talk to their moms about it. They're like,
exactly, yeah. Like, hey, how was your day? Anything cool happen? Like, I get that question every day still, and I'm in college. Like, I will tell you right now. So as you can see, so yeah, it's definitely a factor.
And then when you were speaking, you also mentioned about what you were thinking about doing the shark tagging. So I also am super into that, and I emailed I forget his name. It's
Steve?
Dr. Neil.
Oh, Dr. Neil Hammersley.
Yeah. So I was talking to him. He seems like an amazing teacher.
Yeah.
But I was looking at the shark tagging and how you were saying that you were gonna start, or you had an idea to start seeing the climate change effects on the sharks' behaviors. Are you gonna pursue that?
I really want to. Yeah, so as part of the lab, usually kids will have like a senior project. And so I'm kind of in the stages of like researching how I could go about doing that. I haven't proposed the idea yet. I want to get some more background information before I go to Neil. And I'm like, hey, this is kind of interesting to me. What do you think? So I think that I definitely want to pursue that as like my senior project. But we are already looking at a lot of, thankfully, climate change with sharks as well. We have a PhD student who, basically her entire PhD is about climate change and how it's affecting sharks. Whether it's in like urban areas or otherwise, it's really interesting. It's really cool, and you can actually see some of that research online. It's on our website, sharktagging.com. Yes.
Are you an advocate for anything else not related to climate change?
Oh yeah, all sorts of stuff. Equality, whether it's
That's
gender
what I was gonna
equality,
ask.
race equality, all sorts of things. Yeah, gun violence. I'm very opposed to everything that's been happening. I've met some kids from Parkland and I've heard the stories and like it's brought me to tears. It's so tragic what they've been through, and the amount of mass shootings that we've had is insane. And the fact that we're really not doing anything about it pisses me off. So yeah, there's a lot of things that I'm passionate about.
And also, at first, I don't want to say crazy, but were people very skeptical of when you say, hey, where you're standing is going to be underwater soon, and were they, because they were, I guess, in a sense, ignorant about the subject, and were kind of like, no, what you're saying is crazy.
There are people that are like that. I've been very fortunate where I've really never met anyone like that face to face, which is kind of crazy to me because I know that they're out there and I see them online. I get comments all the time on social media, just totally ignoring what I'm saying and bringing up some other fact or degrading me even. There are comments on all sorts of articles like directed towards me that are crazy. And so there is that negativity out there, but I've chosen to sort of ignore it and try not to read those comments, as I know that with a brighter outlook and a more hopeful outlook, I believe that I can achieve more.
Andrew, go ahead.
Concerning the sort of kind of social and economical effects of global warming, how does it affect human behavior?
So there's a lot of ways that climate change will affect humans when it comes to the economy. So like specifically here in South Florida, one of our biggest sources of income is tourism at like Miami Beach and Lincoln Road. And if seas continue to rise, then, there's already issues in Miami Beach because of sea level rise, but as they continue to rise, the beach might completely disappear. And if we don't have that source of income, then that affects all sorts of other businesses and aspects of the community. Businesses, if they're flooded and people can't get into them, they're not going to make money. If people can't get into their apartment buildings, their condos, then they're going to move out, and there's not going to be that source of income. People aren't going to be paying taxes anymore. How are we going to run our entire economy if people don't live here and don't pay taxes? So it's a huge issue that's basically going to spiral out of control if we don't solve it at some point.
And there is research among police officers that have been telling us that with increasing temperatures, there's much more domestic violence. There's a frustration, aggression that elevate with warming temperatures, and that's a little bit scary.
Would it affect the cycle of life? Like how how much, you know, daytime, I mean, like during the day, like that cycle of, it's, you know, because in some areas, it's like, it's very dark certain seasons.
You know, I'm not exactly sure about that.
The particulate matter might make us have a dimmer atmosphere at some
Right.
point in time, but right now that circadian rhythm type thing is more
Oh, it
controlled
is.
by, yeah.
Yeah.
Andrew, go again.
Um, why is the ozone layer the largest around the poles?
The ozone hole or the ozone layer?
Largest, like, open or like thickest,
No, I mean like
or the hole in it?
the ozone layer hole.
Okay, this has very little to do with climate change, and I'll answer that for you off record. Robbie, you go ahead.
What are the main things contributing to climate change, and how can we, in our normal lives, like avoid contributing to that?
Great question. So the main thing that is causing climate change is our carbon dioxide emissions. So every time you drive a car, people working in factories, people like making things in factories, even airplanes, even boats. So there's a lot of things that contribute to it, which is quite unfortunate. But so as we produce carbon dioxide and emit it into the atmosphere, what it does is it almost creates like a layer within our atmosphere. And as the sun's rays come in, most of them are bounced out. Some of them stay in, and that's what keeps our temperature warm. With this layer of carbon dioxide, more of the sun's rays gets trapped inside the atmosphere, and that's why it's increasing the heat, the temperature of our atmosphere. Now, when that happens, that causes glaciers to melt. It causes oceans to warm up. Glaciers melting causes sea level rise. There's more water in the ocean. Warmer oceans causes thermal expansion. When water heats up, it actually produces more water. It expands. So that also contributes to sea level rise. Not as much, but it does. And then there's also coral bleaching and ocean acidification. And so it's basically all caused because of the fossil fuel emissions. And now what's really scary is that as we continue to melt glaciers, underneath these glaciers, there's a layer of permafrost. And this permafrost entraps a bunch of methane, CH4, that has been frozen for a very long time. And CH4 is even more potent than CO2. And so as all of that begins to melt, we also release all of the CH4 into the atmosphere, which is even worse than CO2. So that speeds up the process even more. So all of these things are related back to one thing, and that's our emission of carbon dioxide. And the way that we know this is because if you look at all the graphs, if you look at sea level rise, temperature, carbon dioxide emissions, you can see that all of the graphs have the same trend, and that's like this, like a hockey stick. And it all starts right around the time of the Industrial Revolution, because we started to produce these factories. Eventually, we started to create cars. So that's how we know that it is caused by humans. Oh, wait, there's a second part. That was what we can do daily. Sorry, got sidetracked. Okay. What we can do daily is basically just try to cut back on those carbon dioxide emissions. So carpooling, if you can't get an electric car. If you can get an electric car, that's fantastic. I know that's not feasible for everyone. Solar power is a great thing. The cost for it is coming down every day. It's becoming cheaper and cheaper, and once it's installed, it pays for itself within, I think it's like 7 to 10 years. And there's a thing, if you're also connected to the grid, you can partake in net solar metering. So if you have excess power that you are not using, you can sell it back to the grid and actually make money off of that. I have a solar powered house. Our bill monthly is anywhere between $7 to $15 per power, which is insane. That's very low. So it's definitely worth it. Other things that you can do: take shorter showers, conserve water. You know, like all the normal things that people say.
Eat less meat.
But yes, meat is a huge part of methane production, especially because the cows produce methane, and then the process of like manufacturing the meat actually produces a lot as well.
And food waste. So that book you mentioned, Drawdown, you should all get it. Or get the ebook. They took 3 million data points crunched all the numbers to see what the 100 best action items are to fix this problem. And in the top 10, it's common sense things like reducing your carbon footprint, eating less meat, educating women and girls, that type of thing that allows us to. They say that the educated women make better decisions than educated men. Sorry, but that's just the way it is. Look at Andrew's like, come on, Mr. Blewett.
I have a question. You talked about creating a law in South Florida about mandatorily putting on solar panels on new constructions.
Yes.
What happened to that? I mean,
So,
personally,
yeah, it was passed.
it was-
It is in effect. It went into effect not this past September, but the one before, so about a year ago. And the first couple of houses have actually been approved in the design stages to have solar panels on their roofs. And this is actually something that I was just thinking about this morning, and I was actually going to go home and email Mayor Stoddard about updates for that. So that's awesome that you asked that. And if you want to give me your email, once I figure out what the updates are, I can share that with you too.
Wait, sorry. So the new law says that all new construction.
Any new construction of a house or material renovation of an existing house, so like if they, whatever the size of the house is currently, if they add onto the house 75% of what the existing size is, they have to put solar panels on the house too.
Got it.
Okay. I'm sorry if I seem really nervous, just because like while you're writing the questions that don't correlate to like what I'm writing about, I'm working on like my science lab and it's very stressful.
You're totally fine.
You could do this another day. She can interview you on the
Yeah.
phone.
Yeah,
you don't
I
have
can
to
give
do
you
it
my
now.
email and you can
No,
call me,
wanna,
we can
I
Skype,
wanna, like,
FaceTime.
I wanna like get this over with.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. I have days like that too.
Are there still CFCs in use today? Since like in the 80s, like when global warming truly became public was during like when everyone was just using hairspray in public and destroying the atmosphere.
Right. I think there was a ban on them, I believe. But I don't know specifically if they're still produced and made. I don't know how that works, but I can definitely look into that for you and get back to you on that.
So the one to be identified in the 70s that were causing a breakdown in the ozone layer, we stopped. And the world went behind it and we closed that ozone hole pretty tightly, not completely shut. There are other fluorocarbons, hydrocarbons that are being generated in industry now that are causing similar effects and are big greenhouse gases. So we have new problems to solve. And what strikes me, Andrew, is that if the whole world got together to stop the hairspray and the underarm spray to fix that in the 70s, why can't the whole world get together and fix the greenhouse gas emissions now?
Because there's not as big an economy under hairspray as there is for like let's say industrial farming.
Probably a very good answer. Yeah, I would agree with that.
You yourself as a student from the task force, what did you guys accomplish?
So our main focus was educating others. So we were all kind of trained to be Clio speakers, like you guys are, and we went out into the community, and anytime they requested a Clio presentation, one of us was there to give it and kind of teach others about what we were learning under Caroline's guidance.
And after that, did you then make the sink or swim, or was that before that?
It was before.
Okay, that's what she saw, and she was like, oh, I'm going to do
Yes.
this.
Yeah.
She could have run Clio by the time I met her. She had been so well versed and was really getting into it, but she became part of that youth task force, that Gen Clio movement that we have now. And it is because of her and 8 others from Mast Academy and other schools that took on the county commission, that went up there, and there they were dressed really nicely and professionally, and they just let them all have it. And it was so impactful.
It was awesome. Yes.
Also, like, I don't know, well, this is my SAM topic is distinguishing fake news and real news, because there's a lot of fake news out there.
Yeah.
Honestly, when I was hearing what you were saying, I think Robbie kind of said that too, like, you thought that it was, like, about, you know, all about the cycle, global warming, and there's just different things that I just, like, that are just such big misconceptions today, you know, regarding everything, and so I think maybe, like, you have a million things to do, honestly, but just an idea.
No,
Like,
yeah.
helping people, get the facts, really.
So Mythbusters, do some Mythbusters.
Yeah,
Because
definitely.
kids will listen to you, Delaney. You should do a whole social media. They'll help you.
Like facts.
Why don't we do it with her?
Myth? Okay.
Let's do some
That'd be
Mythbusters
cool.
and do it with you as part of our Gen Cleo for January 28th. Because it's exactly what Robbie said. Until you heard Delaney say this, you were believing a myth. So myth busting is an important role that you all play for each other because you won't listen to me, you will listen to each other.
It's a widely known thing too. It's not like it's just like 1 out of 100 people think this way. Everyone is told a certain way, and they automatically believe it like this, even if it's from like a very invalid source.
Yeah, I think that's an awesome idea. I think we should totally do that. We can make like 1-minute videos for social media and like propose myths about whatever you want to with climate change, and then bust it in a minute. I think that would be
Morgan, can you get
such
that
a
down in
cool
our
thing.
minutes from today that we're adding that to our agenda? On January 28th, we're filming Mythbusters for social media
Let's
with
do it.
Delaney.
Let's do it.
Oh, I can write it.
Good.
Wait, so is everyone here in Cleona, like Daniela and Robbie?
They're all joining, yes.
Yeah. Welcome, guys.
Are we doing that in the meeting that we have with the
Yeah,
entire
but
schools?
in our Thursday meetings, we need to get ready for that. So,
Okay,
we're
so
like,
okay.
so Delaney, one last question.
Okay.
As part of the Gen Cleo movement in all the schools, we have 4 active schools right now. We have Miami Beach Senior
Cypress
High,
Bay.
Cypress Bay, iPrep, and Cushman High, right? There are many more, but we haven't really been recruiting. Their task is to get a pulse as to how much the kids in their schools know
Kevin has big questions
about
ready for our
climate change.
school.
So can Kevin read you some and you give us some guidance as to whether or not this will help us get a pulse on a student body.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So my first question is, what are some causes of climate change? I mean, I'm not expecting like everyone to list like 20, but
Yeah.
I just want to get a kind of feel for what people know. In
So
our
what you're
schools.
looking for there, the words greenhouse gases,
Yeah.
fossil fuels. So part of when you make a question, you have to think what are you seeking in an answer to determine whether they know it, right? Go ahead.
I also said, what are some simple solutions to climate change? Because I know a lot of people here like recycle, but that's just like a small part of it. There's a lot of things that go into climate change, like Ms. Lewis showed us at the last video meeting.
I would even maybe say other than recycling, because
Yeah,
I
it's such a
have-
go-to thing.
I have had people like ask multiple other people that question, and let me think. Okay, so I just was working at a music festival a couple weekends ago, and I was giving away stuff, but I only but I only had a limited amount. So I was like, okay, tell me 3 things that you can do in order to live more sustainably before I give this to you. And the most common answer by far was reduce, reuse, recycle, and that's 3. Kind of the same 3, but it's 3, so I had to go with it. But I would say other than recycling, to make them really think about it.
What else you have, Kevin?
Uh,
Any other questions?
I have, should we have climate reform in Florida? If not, why? Because I want to know how the students at our school feel.
For sure.
So before today, you would have said no.
What was the question asked?
The question is,
Should we have climate change reform in Florida?
Oh. Well, the thing is, I probably, I was in a place of ignorance, so I honestly didn't know what that was, so I probably would have just, had no opinion on the question, because I didn't really realize what the issue was, and then I would kind of see, the other side, oh, well, why do we need that, you know?
Yeah.
Just be more accepting of that side.
Yeah.
so
and
what
that's a
she's
fair
saying
answer.
about education really does work.
Yes.
You're the perfect age to lecture people because when I talk, he doesn't listen. You talk to him and he goes, "Oh my God, she's older, yet she's younger." I see what she's been in my space. And
Yeah, it's really powerful. We can use our voices.
But
It's crazy.
we're too young to be okay, we don't care. But you're just you're an adult now.
But
Okay,
she's doing
like
this at
young
your
adult.
age.
Yeah, that's the point. I started this when I was in high school, when I was in 9th grade, when I was in 10th
it's so
grade.
hard though to get people to hear you when you talk to them.
But they
Yeah.
listen. They
Yeah.
do. I'm telling you, when I was your age, they were listening as well. It's not just now because I'm older. And what's really cool is part of it is that you don't have a vote yet. you don't have a voice in society, but you're pushing forward and using the voice that you do have in society anyways. You're proving to them that you do have a voice and that you can make changes no matter what your age is. And that's what's so powerful about all of your voices. And that's why you need to use them. And that's why it's so cool that you're doing that with the SAM project. Okay, continue.
This is why I love her. This is why I sleep better at night, because we got this voice out there. So can I tell you quickly about Sebastian?
Yes.
Sebastian, for their SAM projects, they have to pick an issue. And they have to ask a big question for the world to answer, and then a smaller question. And what I was really impressed with when he picked sea level rise and climate change, tell them what your questions were.
Last year's questions or this year's questions?
The one that talks about making a better youth for our future.
Right, so my big global question is, while we're trying to create a better future for our youth, what can we do to create a better youth for the future? So,
Isn't that cool? I love that.
Just change
that's
the words
so
around.
good,
It's
yeah.
sweet.
But anyways, my
That's
topic
really
is
cool.
educating people on climate change, specifically elementary school students. So since that's what you're kind of doing, I'm kind of stuck in my project. I don't know where to go next.
Okay.
So I don't know if it's whether to create a curriculum or just put myself out there. I don't know what the next step is. So,
She told you go to your brother's school.
Yeah.
Go to your own elementary school. She did it. She put her foot in the door and everything opened.
The very first place I went to was my elementary school because I knew that I could email the headmaster and say, I'm working on starting this. I would love to start here. It's a familiar place. So I'd be super comfortable doing it too. I used to be terrified of public speaking. Absolutely terrified. I would shake, my voice would crack. It was the scariest thing to me. Obviously now I'm fine with it, but that's because I've had so much practice doing it. So it was a great place to start doing that because like I said, I was comfortable there. It was a familiar place. You know the teachers there. So it's a great place to start, and the kids are super young, and they will understand. I told you I've spoken to kindergartners. They're gonna get it. They're gonna understand, and it's really cool to see them understand.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
And if you want help, like putting together a PowerPoint or anything like that, like feel free to ask me questions. I'll give you my email, and you can definitely like hit me up, ask me about any of my experiences. I'd love to help.
Thank you.
Has any of like kindergartners' moms been like upset with you for talking about something so like controversial?
They weren't there.
Yeah, but like when the teachers ever like, oh yeah, it's very.
I know. It was at Cushman. It was actually at Cushman. And I don't know. So it was a book reading, but I read from my comic book, which does have a lot of science in it. It like explains the science and then explains what we can do about it. And so that's what I was kind of reading from. And it was just kids and teachers, and then a Q&A session. And they're kindergartners.
Questions?
They were more interested in telling me their experiences with climate change, which is still really cool. Like you're in kindergarten, but you're seeing the effects of climate change, and you understand that that's what you're seeing, and you understand that it's going to get worse. And so it's so cool to see that even kids at such a young age actually are caring about this issue and are interested in trying to solve it. It's awesome. It's so cool. But I have no idea about parents.
If some parents get like upset when their kids hear about controversial things such as
Yeah, I mean it's definitely possible. Like the kids may go home and say, today we learned about climate change from the high schooler who came to our school and talked to us. And it's possible that some of the parents may be like, oh, I don't like that, but I can't speak to that. I don't know. My focus is the kids.
Victor and Kevin, and then that's it. Go on.
Have you ever brought up the idea of a carbon tax to Miami representatives?
So I haven't personally, but there is an organization called the Citizens Climate Lobby who's very interested in doing that. And just recently, they actually had a carbon fee kind of be proposed. And while they are unsure whether or not it will actually be passed, the fact that officials are actually taking a look at it is very encouraging. So it's in like the very, very initial stages, but it's super cool. And that was just like a couple weeks ago, actually, so that's awesome.